Welcome to my YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader at Verified Investing. Happy Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me on this weekend edition. Last video I went live, or I posted a video. I said, make sure you hit that likes, follow, and subscribe button. And then all of a sudden, my subscribership shot up. I want to give a shout out to everybody who did subscribe and who has subscribed. It really helps me out. And I also want to say thank you for all of you who comment and like my videos. Commenting on them gives me an insight into what you guys are thinking and what your support levels or your particular charts that are interesting to you. So that way I can cover them in future videos. In this particular video, I am going to cover Nvidia, LW, Tesla, Nike, Oklo, and LITE. So stay tuned. You guys don't want to miss all of this price action or potential price action and alpha that I'm going to provide. First stock we're going to tackle is Tesla. I want you to notice how we are currently stuck inside of this parallel channel. I want you to notice how often price respects not only the upper boundary, but also the lower boundary. And more importantly, in this case, the midline of this parallel channel. We did a little bit of price consolidation right here before our breakup. We got a little bit of price consolidation here before the breakdown. Now that we're above this, price could get to this $500.58 level. This is more of the midline of the middle of the parallel channel, the upper 2/3 of the parallel channel. However, this is going to be a key psychological level where we will see some profit takers step up. Just think about you. If you're in this trade and you're long, what would be your next profit target to sell this stock? Most likely it would be a pierce of $500, thinking that this is going to be a great level. We want to be jumping on board with those people who want to take profits and drive this price down with them as they're taking profits. Then you could target this midline of this parallel channel for a potential long. However, for me, this short at $500.58, this is a day trade level because we have the upper end of the parallel channel at 525.07. For me, this is the entry price for a swing trade. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and wait for that level. It could pierce this level, but then ultimately I feel like it's going to come back in based on the technicals of this being the third hit of this parallel channel. What I would do is look to take profits around the midline unless price can consolidate a little bit more. And then I would lower my target to $458.96 and removing it at this the lower end of this parallel channel, probably looking at around 415 bucks. If price does break below that and confirms lower, I would actually look to short it again at a retrace at the scene of the crime and look for a further move to the downside. You could get a move all the way to this gap fill at $338.50. Once the selling pressure persists on Tesla, it's going to continue and you're going to have a pretty sharp sell-off. Ultimately, Tesla is overextended on the daily time frame and the weekly time frame. Did do some price consolidation, which is why we've got some upward momentum. But for me, my max upside is 525.07. Okay, let's go ahead and go into LITE. It has catastrophically, it has gone up ridiculously in the last trading day. I did have some key levels that I was looking at in the live day trading room. However, they didn't hit soon enough. So for me, I'm going to wait for a double top pierce, and I've got a key trend line that I'm going to have you guys look at with me. So first level that I had in the live day trading room is $362. It's a wide range red bar candle. I did get a nice rebound off of that. So that day trade level was off the table. Then my secondary level is a gap fill, $372.08. It did get a little bit of a pullback. On Monday, the next level of resistance is going to be 376.53. If price gets above 375, you're looking at 390 or even $400. So what I'm going to do is show you what trend line I'm looking at. I'm going to connect this pivot top, trend line tool, pivot top through all this price consolidation. And look at this. So depending on where you draw your trend lines, this could be the max upside move. Not only the $400, but it could get up to $410. Again, depending on where your trend line is drawn. Right now, we are in an upward trajectory on LITE. So don't don't be surprised if it does head up there and get to that level. The reason I would be targeting the $400 even number on Monday would be the fact that not only has it shot up from the lows just from the 16th of December, that would be a 29-30% move to the upside. And similar to what I was talking about with the Tesla chart, you are looking at a whole round number, and it's $100 number. So think about where people would take profits. Again, similar to what's going to go on with Tesla, could be a great area that people are looking to exit their trade at that specific level and then drive the price down. So as they're selling, we want to be in there shorting it so that way we can take advantage of that selling pressure on the way down. Swing trade level, now that I've got this upsloping trend line, not only 400, but it could go up to $410. Ultimately, it's overly extended. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's done. As far as the full movement, could continue higher and pierce that upsloping trend line as well. But those are my levels on LITE. So let's go ahead and jump into why some traders fail and some traders succeed. The willpower is a finite resource. Every time that you're having to make these micro decisions over and over and over again, you're having to use a little bit more and more of your willpower. Am I going to enter this LITE at 372 at a Pierce? And then, okay, now it's going against me. What am I going to do now? I'm going to have to add here, and then I'm going to have to add here, and then where do I take my profits? If I haven't already set the profit target, what is it going to be? Am I looking for $5? Am I looking for $10? So you can see how all these micro decisions kind of wanes on your willpower. And this is somebody who most likely you aren't a full-time trader. You're just trying to make these decisions on the fly when you're getting into them. Now, if you've already set up everything that you're going to do ahead of time and stick with that, you eliminate all those micro decisions. So for me in the live day trading room, if I have an upside target and I'm going to look to enter a position, let's say LITE at $400, if it does not get to that level and it pulls back, I am not interested in that trade. I'm going to say congratulations for all you profit takers who decided to exit that trade before $400. I was looking for that $400 Pierce, didn't give it to me. And even if it pulls back 10%, congratulations to that stock, to those profit takers, to those short sellers who took advantage. It allows me to then move on to other charts that I'm currently monitoring, but it reduces the amount of decisions that I have to make on a particular stock. There are often times where it's getting close to a level and you can say, all right, well, what if I just enter a little bit earlier? And you said, okay, well, I'm looking for $400 and then I'm looking for a Pierce of 405 for an add level and then 415, and I'm going to add every $4 to $5 higher. Well, what happens if you enter early and then it continues against you? Do you then add every $4, knowing that your original target was $400 for an entry? Or are you more scattered in trying to make sure that your dollar cost average is in the right place to take advantage of it? If trend lines don't hit, if particular levels don't hit, then the trade is over. That's okay. That's how I look at things. That's how I look at the charts. That's how I look at open positions, closed positions. I set it, and then if I walk away and forget it, because I've already got my add levels and I've got my take profits, it reduces the amount of energy that I'm putting into that particular stock and allows me to focus on other things that are equally as important, but also something that I can take advantage of. So that's my little soapbox on making decisions and limiting the amount of resources that you take or give to a particular stock, because it whittles down your willpower. All right, let's go ahead and jump into a couple more. This is going to be a longer video. Nvidia is a nice chart that I'm monitoring. What I've done is connected this up, so this high pivot point on Nvidia from the June 2024. Have all this price consolidation underneath this trend line, and then it broke above. And look at the support that this upsloping trend line has given us. Now, this would be the first hit, second hit, third hit, fourth hit of this upsloping trend line. Once it got above it, that means that the support is pretty solid on this chart of Nvidia. If this gives way, then you're going to see a much lower price target, you're likely to head back to this pivot top right here, based on the fact that look at all of this support that was in this stock before. For me, if it breaks, then I would look to short this on a retrace of the crime after it confirms. So what do I mean by confirm? It can't just pierce it right here. It's got to close below and then make another move to the downside. What often happens is price action then gets back up to this, which would be resistance, and then it falls sharply. Another nice thing about waiting for a retrace is any close with confirmation back above a trend line, if I'm shorting it, would be a stop out level. Again, it's all about minimizing the amount of thought process you're giving to something because you've already predetermined everything that's going to happen with this stock. Now, on the upside, we do have this downsloping trend line on Nvidia, and every candle gives you a little bit more information. So initially, I would have said this was your trend line, and this still could be your trend line. We haven't broken above with confirmation. We've gotten rejected again, came into the support, and now we're back above it again. If price does consolidate and confirms back above this level, you are likely to see another move up to about $206 on Nvidia. If you have your level set and it doesn't hit it, and it chops and chops and chops and then flushes in, well, you can say, congratulations, it didn't hit my level. I can move on to the next stock, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of stocks that are tradable. Just because you miss a level on Nvidia, we're not going to FOMO into it and try to chase it on the way down. Likewise, we're not going to chase it on the way up. If you're a little bit more aggressive and you think that there's more potential upside in Nvidia, you could wait for a retrace to the scene of the crime again after a confirmation, which would be a little bit of a break of this upswing trend line, and you would go long on a pierce and then a hit of this trend line, and then look for another move to the upside. Again, the beautiful thing is if it does close below this upswing trend line here, then you could always stop out and look for another entry around $140.79. Okay, LW is another stock. Oh my gosh, this thing got beaten up yesterday. It looked like it was going to get a bounce back above $45, and then towards the end of the day, it flushed out and got below $44. There are a couple different trend lines that I'm looking at. I'm actually going to clean this up before I show you my charts. All right, here's the chart of LW. Nice, massive sell-off. So here was the closing price on LW, and look at what happened. You had a 20% move, got below 45. I think it got to 45, 43, got above, and then all of a sudden, the end of the day, we'd had this huge seller come in and just drive the price down. Now that we're below these low pivots, these pivots at $48 are going to be major resistance for it because of all this price consolidation. For me, the next level, and I got to zoom into the chart right here, would be $42.47. But ultimately, I'm looking at this low pivot from the COVID lows on LW at $39.06. If we zoom out even more, look at this. Not only does it line up with this low pivot, but you have this high pivot here and then this price consolidation. LW $39.06 should get, on a technical basis, some pretty good support. Now, if it does break there, you could always look to add at $36.02. If you've already got these predetermined, again, that's something that you don't have to think about. It gets down to $39.06. All right, awesome. I'm going to enter a 1 to 2% of my portfolio. If it gets down to $35.91, fine. I'll add another 1 to 2%, bringing my dollar cost average in. And then what you'd do is you'd look for your take profit. You would have to wait for price consolidation. If it does break below this low pivot, you're going to know that that's resistance on the way up. However, if it breaks back above this low pivot, then you have more upside and you can take 10, 15, 20% on a stock like LW. All right, now let's go into another chart. The next one I'm going to go over is, we've already gone over Nvidia, gone over LW, Tesla, LITE. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the chart of Nike. Nike had it did beat the EPS estimates on earnings. The guidance was almost non-existent. When somebody is interested in investing in a stock, especially if you're not looking at technical analysis, you're just looking at the forecast of what's about to happen, and you don't get any information on what the forecast is going to be for a particular stock, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay long? It is a dividend paying stock, but if there's no growth in it, then why are you going to hold on to it? And so as you can see with Nike, it continued to flush. Did get a pretty nice bounce initially, but now it's down a little bit lower, closed at $58.78. Let's go ahead and see where the next level of support is going to be on Nike. So the first support was this low pivot here. As you can see, it broke below, tried to get back above, and then fleshed out a little bit more, filled this gap quite nicely. Next level of support for a day trade for me would be $56.96. If it flushes there, you've got this previous gap fill in the charts at 55.55. And then ultimately for me, my initial long level would be $52.23 or $52.33. Because you've got all this price consolidation, there should be, on a technical basis, there should be a lot of buyers who are willing to now get back into the stock because it has dropped so low. This is the lows from April of 2005. However, if price does get below that, we actually have to zoom way out in the charts. Your next level of support is going to be right here at the $50. What I like to do is I like to take pivot tops. This was a previous pivot top. As you can see, price had consolidated above it or on that level. It was a lot of support. So if it gets down below $52.33, your next level of support is $49.95. If for some reason it does drop, your next level of support, $45.26. Ultimately, I think that if we could ever get Nike back to this gap fill, this would be a long-term hold position. $39.85 would be a level that I pick up a pretty substantial portion of my portfolio and hold long-term. Nike is a dividend paying stock. As long as they maintain that dividend, for me, this would be a longer term hold. And if you see how far Nike has dropped, this would be a buy of, not necessarily a lifetime, but this would be a pretty solid buy even at this level. So here was the high in Nike at $179.40. The closing price was down 67%, 70%. This would be a 72% drop. But if we got this, we were able to pick this up, this would be a 77.65% haircut at a Pierce of $40. Long-term hold position, dividend paying stock. I think this looks great. All right, now let's go ahead and go into OKLO. I know a lot of you guys watch this thing, especially with the volatility that's been in the stock lately. It did have a nice bounce. What I want to show you is we actually broke an upsloping trend line to the downside. We confirmed below it, and then we retraced the scene of crime yesterday. A couple different options for OKLO going forward. Let's go ahead and jump into that chart. Here is the price action. From this low pivot, secondary pivot, draw a trend line. As you can see, it hit this level beautifully, then took off to the upside, came back in, retested it, finally flushed it, try to get back above, confirm below. So this was a confirmation candle because we had a continuation move to the downside. And then price got back up to this upsloping trend line and retested it. Now, on a technical basis, this is where somebody who is just going to set their levels and forget it, they would enter a short right here on OKLO, even with this down move because of this broken upsloping trend line. You would enter it at $85.94 and look for a further downside move. I like to target previous pivots in an upsloping trend line, which would be right here about $60. So if you decided to enter this trade right here at that $85 level or whatever, you would take it down to about the $61 level. So that could be about a 28% level. And then look for price to consolidate here for another move to the downside around 38.09. Again, the beautiful thing is if you did get in this level, you would be slightly in the money. I wouldn't write home and say, congratulations, this is the trade of a lifetime. But it would be a great entry price, especially with an upsloping trend line. If price does decide to close back above or inside of it with confirmation, then you could always look to stop out of it and then look for additional resistance if you're interested in shorting it. If price does recapture this downslope or this upsloping trend line, what you could do also is actually flip this to a long, because if price consolidates below it, confirms below it, and then goes back above a trend line, that means that there's still additional buyers who are willing to pick this up, and then OKLO can really skyrocket to the upside. For me, a long play, the level that I'm going to set it and forget it would be $38.09. If it doesn't get down there, I will just be okay with not trading OKLO and look at other charts. If you're more aggressive than I am, then you could look to enter it at a long play here at $60.64 because you have this support area right here. And you're going to have additional support at $56 and then $46.93. But ultimately, this is my level right here, 38.09. I think there's a high pivot. No, there was no high pivot there. Anyway, I really hope this helps. I hope this helps you understand willpower. And this goes with everything in life. Whether you're going to work out, are you trying to make the decision every single day of like, is today the day I'm going to work out? Or, am I going to meal prep on this day? Or what am I going to eat this day? Or what clothes am I going to wear? If we have everything predetermined in our lives, we will be a lot more focused on our trades and we can be a lot more successful, not only in trading, but overall in life. So there's my soapbox. I hope you guys get something out of this, and we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day and take care. Oh, make sure you're following, liking, subscribing, ringing that bell, and continuing to comment. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you. Take care.